Hello, everyone. I'm Peggy Neely Harris with Peggy's Creative Art Space podcast, where we hope to bring you motivating stuff in the arts that you can benefit from. So let's take a look.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Welcome back and to the beginning of spring. Things are in bloom, and so are the arts. We try to keep what we know about the arts alive and well through our special guests, our historical news, tidbits, workshops, creative opportunities, seminars, and so forth. But most of all, in sharing things with you. We're on the road again, that's right, with our special guest who happens to be the son of my musician friend, Stan Gill. So let's see what's cooking. Hello, everyone. I'm Peggy Neely Harris, and you are watching Peggy's Creative Art Space podcast. As usual, we bring on some wonderful guests in the arts so we can chat about things that we all like, artistic things. And today, my guest is Phil Gill, who is the Adjunct theater professor and director at Lindenwood University. It is so great to meet you, Phil. So let's just take it over and tell us a little bit more about your degree. And you have a BFA and an MFA and how you got started and the road you've taken. So take it over, Phil. Thank you much.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So as you said, I'm currently an adjunct professor at Lindenwood University, where I do some directing in their program. I have my BFA in musical theater performance from Drake University up in Des Moines, Iowa. And then I got my MFA in directing from Lindenwood University, where I currently teach.
Awesome.
And so, I took a few years between getting my undergraduate degree and my graduate degree, and I spent some time touring the country with the Missoula Children's Theater. I've worked with various companies across the St. Louis area, as well as a few different companies around the country. A company in Birmingham, Alabama, I worked with when I lived in Alabama for a year. So, yeah,
Awesome.
I've experienced a lot.
I know your dad is into
Yeah.
music and all that. And as a matter of fact, he played on my inspirational CD some years ago. Wonderful guy, love him to death. So did he influence you into this area, or did it just kind of automatically pick up? You just picked that up or whatever?
I think there was a subtle influence. I feel like my dad somewhat lives vicariously through some of the stuff that I do when it comes to the theater side of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's the one who introduced me to a lot of the first musicals that I experienced and things like that.
Ah.
And both of my parents have always been very supportive of
Mhm.
the choice that I made to go into the arts, which is not always something that a lot of parents are supportive of.
You're
And
right.
so,
You're right. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So what instruments do you play? You say musical theater. Are you just actually putting on the musical theater plays, or do you actually play instruments yourself?
Oh gosh, I wish I could play an instrument. I played
Me
trumpet.
too.
I played trumpet for a year in sixth grade, and I took 2 years of piano lessons in my undergraduate degree, and all that I got from it was being able to kind of like plunk out my part as I see it on the paper.
Yeah.
But by the end of that second year, I was on the struggle bus with the piano. So no, I am not an instrumentalist by any means. I sing, and that's about it.
Oh, well, that's just as important, though. That's okay. We all
Right.
have different talents in different ways, right? Yeah. But the most
Yeah.
important thing is that we all love the theater. And that's what my guests are coming to my podcast, because I invite people who are in the arts and then people who have a passion for the arts, but may not know how to get into it. So, as you are an instructor there at Lindenwood University in the theater department, do you find that there are a lot of students who actually know where they want to go in the arts, or do you find yourself pulling and trying to encourage people to get into different areas of the art? How does that work for you there?
Yeah, so I think one of the great things that we have in our department, BFA students who, come into our program knowing for sure that they're like, I want to be somebody who does theater as a profession. And
Okay.
then we have a lot of BA students, and so they're not as so the BA students explore all of the areas that theater has to offer versus the BFA students who, may just specialize in acting or may just specialize in tech and design.
Yes.
And so with the BA students, what we encourage them to do is explore all of the areas that theater has to offer. And
Good.
to all of our students, we let them know, a degree in theater doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be going to a theater in Chicago or on Broadway or
Right.
any big theater houses. Various
Mm-hmm.
number of fields, but the skills that you learn in
Mm-hmm.
theater and the skills that you learn with this degree are applicable to the business world and to all of the different areas that you might pursue that might
Sure.
not necessarily first come to mind when you're like, I have a theater degree.
Right. So you do encourage them to get involved and just kind of explore all the other options in the world of theater.
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. That's wonderful. I love it. So, Phil, when we talk about, I got the world today that we live in, if art is a healing force or just, a force for just a pure, and a subject for pure enjoyment, how do you think we should keep our communities alive and thriving in the arts? Because it does transcend so many borders and boundaries and so forth. It's a healing thing. So how would you consider keeping that alive in our communities?
Yeah, I mean, I think the arts in general, but theater, since that's where my specialization lies.
Yeah.
I think there's so many things that theater is able to do that might not necessarily be
Mm-hmm.
acknowledged by the world as a whole. I think the messages that theater has to send and the ability to, whether it be to sit in a space and think about nothing but the beauty of the costumes in My Fair Lady for 2 hours, or
Yes, I saw that.
if it's sitting in a space, oh my gosh, gorgeous. If you're sitting in a space, and I just got done producing a production of Rent at the university, and
Oh,
that show has so many messages behind it
yes,
and
yes.
themes that we can cling on to as a people. And it speaks to diversity, it speaks to inclusion, it speaks to love, and kind of going beyond like the labels that all of these characters have, and
Mhm.
really seeing the people behind those labels and
Yeah,
addressing those people as people.
yeah.
And so I think one of the things that I would encourage artists to do around is think about why it is that you're doing the art. And so I think that's one of the ways to keep the community thriving, is to remind us why it is that we're doing the things that we do.
Healing through the arts
Hmm.
during the COVID times. Oh my goodness. Touch bases on that a little bit about how did it affect Lindenwood University and the theater department, but it also brought a way for us to do what we're doing today, Zooming and so forth. So how did it affect you guys out there?
Yeah, wow. I mean, I think universities in general are going to be seeing the results and like the impact of the pandemic for years. I don't think it's something that is going to go away anytime soon, as far
Yeah.
as like the impact that it's had on our population. And our theater students especially felt it hard, because there was a time where we just couldn't do what it is that we were there to do. It's hard to have an acting class on Zoom.
I
It
know.
gave us this technology, which was great, and it gave us the opportunity to
But
to address different ways of
yeah,
performance, which I think is amazing. But
yeah,
at the same time, when you're in person and you're one on one,
yeah.
there's something about being in that space and in that room that makes theater people thrive. We were able, actually, the last year, to produce a full slate of our season. We had to
Good.
live stream all of our performances, and so they were performing without an audience,
Yeah.
but it allowed them to actually like be in person. I produced a production of Tartuffe, and I had to make sure that on the stage, all of the characters were 6 feet apart from each other through the
Ah,
entire show. So
I
everybody kind
know.
of had a 6 foot bubble around them,
Yeah.
and we were masked the whole time, and we
Yes.
didn't have an audience. And so, you know, it didn't give them the whole experience, but it allowed us to
There you go.
start to feel again and start to work again.
Important.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So at Lindenwood, do you guys ever have a chance to go out into the community, basically do some supporting in the community, like workshops and seminars? And yeah, how do you do that? How
Yeah,
did you do it
so
before COVID, though? Yeah.
yeah. Since COVID, we've not been able to do that as much, but we do reach out to a lot of the local high schools, especially in the area,
Uh-huh.
schools, to see. And so uh, we've got a wide range of specialties among our faculty, and all of us are willing to come in and talk through an
Uh-huh.
acting class, or
Good.
a workshop on something as small as like stage intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
which is you know is a new field for a lot of people, that some high school theater teachers don't have a lot of specialization in, but it's something that's becoming an industry standard. And so there are times when we are able to say, this is something that you're probably going to learn about coming into the world, and we can help you get a jump start with it.
So explain a little bit more about the intimacy, that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I've been kind of working towards is starting up as an intimacy director. And so the new industry standard in theaters right now is becoming, um, inviting in a person whose sole goal, just like you have a choreographer, just like you have a fight director, you have somebody whose sole responsibility is creation of consent centered, um, intimacy scenes.
Okay, I
And so
see.
we do it with, yeah, and we do it with like a trauma informed basis. So the idea that with these scenes, there's a lot of doors that can be open up, and when you have somebody who's just the director asking an actor to do some of these things on stage, there's a power dynamic that exists where it's
Aha.
really difficult for the actor to give consent without coercion.
Awesome. Phil, I love the beautiful sound around you, the outdoors. It makes the interview so much better. It's just so springy or whatever. But now, if I do ask you to go over something a little bit more, because a little bit, it breaks up a little bit while you're outdoors, but I
Oh,
can hear you. So if I ask you to
okay.
do a repeat, I'm not talking about you, okay? I'm just asking you for the audience sake, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I love the outdoor side. It's wonderful. And I can tell you're artistic. You're out there doing this. And that's another form of creativity. I mean, who would have thought, on a spring day like this, after all of that rain we had this week, so it's wonderful to have you out there. Awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah.
I, I've got a 3-year-old at my house, and so doing it inside my house was not much of an option. So I was like,
Okay.
we're gonna find somewhere that's nice and pretty and sunny, and I'm gonna just enjoy the outdoors.
It is wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so now there's been a lot of talk about defunding arts in, schools, communities, and universities or whatever. Do you find yourself pushing for that a lot more when these House bills are passing or whatever? I just think it's so crucial for the people who are passing or not, vetoing the bills, to understand how important the arts is to everyday life.
Yeah, 100%. I think that there's so many hurdles for artists to jump over,
Already.
and right, already. And you know the 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 United States is one of the few countries that doesn't really have a very like vibrant funding of the arts through the government.
You're right.
And the NEA exists, but constantly sees its budget looked at as
Yeah,
a secondary need to society. And
exactly.
when something's going to take a hit, the NEA is going
Yeah,
to be what takes the hit first.
yeah.
And so yeah, I find myself pushing against it at the university level.
Mm.
We create a budget for a show and then
Yeah.
say this is how much we're going to need, and they say, okay, we have that much in our budget, that's great. But then every step of the way we have to justify the
Mm.
expenditures that we're making. I had an instance with a bag of chips. Like, I needed a bag of chips that I
Yeah.
was like, well, it would be great if she could open it up and pull out some chips and eat them on the way through this scene
Yeah.
where the script says chips anyone. And we found out that we could not fund more than one bag of Lay's potato chips
Oh my
because the
goodness.
money was there, but the university wasn't going to see the justification in more than one bag of potato chips. And yet here we are talking about how arts are inconsequential in the budget line,
Exactly.
when for a year of our lives, when we were stuck in our house, we relied on artists to keep us sane.
So on that note, in our last few questions, do you think that most people leave the Midwest for that reason, to find more suitable areas that support wholeheartedly the arts?
I think there's a lot of different
Reasons.
reasons, right? A lot of people see the greener pastures of places like LA or New York or
Sure.
even Chicago for for theater, especially because it is, one of those bigger cities.
Hmm.
And, if you're planning on making a career as an artist,
Hmm.
it makes better sense for you to go and find places where there is
Yeah.
more of an opportunity to make the money
Yes.
that is available.
Hmm.
I also always I tell people St. Louis has a ridiculously large theater community.
Yes, yes, it does.
There are so many theater companies out there now, Louis, who say I make my living solely as being an actor.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that makes sense because there's not enough need. There's not enough call for those people
There
to
you go.
make the money
Yeah.
as an actor.
Yeah.
But there's a few out there in the city of St. Louis who have and will and can continue to work solely in their artistic field and make the money.
You're right
But
about
if you're
that.
looking to find that, yeah. But if you're looking to find, a steady income, it's probably not the best, not the best place for it, because there's
Yeah.
just not the groundwork in place. I talk to people about whether or not it's a smart choice for them to join Actors Equity
Sure.
when they're living in St. Louis.
Exactly.
For a lot of people, it's not the right move because that limits the number of options you have to perform.
Exactly.
But if you're looking to make a living as an artist, if you're looking for that to be your sole income, then absolutely please join the union because
Wonderful.
they're going to protect you.
Sure. It has been a pleasure and a joy to hear all of your artistic communication, the things that you have to, to share with our audience. And I would love to have you on another as a follow-up to what you guys are doing at Lindenwood, the future of Lindenwood, the theater department, and so forth. So would you be willing to come back on, for another chat with us?
absolutely. Anytime. I could talk about this for hours.
I know I can just feel it on you. It's just like oozing off of you. We both love the arts, and I thank you so very much for putting your heart and soul into this conversation. But there's so much more we can talk about. But our time is limited. We only have a 30-minute podcast. But I love the conversation. Let's keep it going, and let's do another follow-up. And if there's one last word you want to say to artists, what would you do if I asked you the question? Finish this sentence. Art is what?
Art is sustaining.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. We've just been talking to Phil Gill at Lindenwood University. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again. Thank you so much, Phil. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Today's creative tip is an element of a well-written play, and it's basically a little set of words called the beginning, middle, and end. It's not as easy as it sounds either. So what we do is we think about the beginning and ending as picture frames of the world, and the middle where all the action takes place. Now the beginning is what's going on before the play starts. The end is what's going on after the play is over with, when the characters have changed. And you guessed it, in the middle, characters try to solve their problems with all kinds of strategies. And remember, when you are finishing up a play, you always want to end it with some kind of semblance of how the play began. So the audience can look back and say, oh yeah, I do remember that. And don't forget, beginning, middle, and end. Did you know that this actress was regarded as the most aggravating television mothers of all times? And that is none other than Doris Roberts, better known as Marie Barone, because everybody loves Raymond from the sitcom Raymond. The iconic actress Doris Roberts was not only born in St. Louis, but she was Jewish as well, born as Doris Mae Green on November the 4th, 1925 in St. Louis, Missouri, to a Russian Jewish immigrant couple, Anne and Larry Green. Roberts' father abandoned the family when she was just 10 years old, so Roberts and her mother moved to live with her mother's parents in Bronx, New York for a time. Doris eventually took on her new stepfather's name, Roberts. She attended New York University but dropped out to pursue acting full-time. And what an artistic roller coaster ever since, until her death from a stroke in 2016 in Los Angeles. Her ability to mine emotion and laughs with equal skill won her an Emmy, 4 out of 7 nominations she earned during her 9-season run on the series. And when she repeatedly asked Raymond, "Are you hungry, dear? Are you hungry, dear?" was actually plugging her book. Playing Marie Barone was a life-changing role for Roberts, as Everybody Loves Raymond made her a well-known actress across the globe. And now you know.
He's a comforter in times of despair. He's a soul provider when no one else cares. He's a way maker when you're at your end. A forgiving God, as we were born in sin. When you're lost, can't find your way, follow his footsteps. He's leading the way. If you ever have a problem, give it to Jesus, because he will work it out. The Savior's gonna work it out. Oh, work it out. My Savior's gonna work it out. Oh, Lord. The Savior's gonna work it out. Yes, he'll work it out.
Wherever you go, he'll be right there with you. When your burdens grow so heavy, well, he's the one that lifts you. And it doesn't really matter what problems come your way. Reach out and call on Jesus. Believe in your heart that he will work it out.
The Savior's gonna work it out.
Oh, he'll work it out. The Savior's gonna work
Savior's gonna work it out. Yes, he'll work it out.
What a friend that we have in Jesus.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
He's a friend of mine.
He's a friend of mine.
I know he is. He's a friend of mine. What a friend that we have in Jesus.
Jesus right on time.
He's right on time.
Right on time.
He's never too late. Save your soul divine. Save your soul divine.
Now wherever you should go,
He'll be right there with you.
and when your burdens are so heavy,
Well, he's the one that really loves you. And it doesn't really matter
what problems come your way, reach out and call on Jesus. Believe in your heart that he will work it out. The Savior's gonna work it out.
He's my rock. He'll work it on out. He'll work it
He'll
on
work
out.
it on out. The Savior's gonna work it out. Yes, he'll work it out. Work it out. The Savior's gonna work it out.
He's my lily of the valley.
He's my lily of the valley. I can't do without him. Yes, he'll work it out. Work it out. Father, Father, Father. The Savior's gonna work it out.
Praise him from whom all blessings are more than strong.
So we have come to the part where we give our parting thought today, and that is thrive as best as you can. You know, it is no piece of cake living in today's world. So remind yourself of what it is that makes you thrive, that makes you happy, that keeps you motivated. And remember, we do live in a shared community, a shared humanity. So whatever you do, make sure it can bless someone else as well.
Special thanks to Good Shepherd Art Center, New Awakening UMC Church, My J's Creatives, IH Productions. If you or someone you know would like to advertise or simply have your logo displayed on our podcast, give us a call at 314-521-6388.
Because of you, I'm far from oppression. Because of you, fear doesn't come near me. Because of you, I'm more than a conqueror. Because of you, I have a peace. Peace that passes all understanding. Because of you,